Have you ever been in a relationship, romantic, friendship, or even work, where you constantly felt like you weren't quite enough? Not because anything was obviously wrong, but because the other person had a habit of bringing up other people. My ex never had a problem with this. Everyone else thinks I'm right. My friend Sarah would never react like that. And every time they did it, something tightened in your chest. A small voice that said, maybe they're right. Maybe you need to try harder. Maybe I'm a problem. Here's what I want to tell you. That feeling wasn't an accident, and it wasn't about you. Here's what makes this particular pattern so hard to spot. On the surface, everything sounds reasonable. Comparing people is normal. Mentioning an ex is normal. Saying other people see it differently is normal. So when someone does it to you, your first instinct isn't to be suspicious. It's to be self-reflective. You start asking yourself, am I being too sensitive? Am I the difficult one here? Are they right that everyone else agrees with them? And while you're busy questioning yourself, something else is happening. The other person is gaining control of the dynamic. Because the moment you start competing, the moment you start trying to prove you're better than the ex, more agreeable than the friend, more reasonable than everyone else, you've handed them something very powerful. You've given them the ability to define your worth. And people who do this intentionally know exactly what they're doing. They know that keeping you slightly off balance, slightly insecure, slightly unsure of where you stand, keeps you working for their approval. And as long as you're working for their approval, they hold all the cards. The worst part? Most people who fall for this are not naive or weak. They're usually people who care deeply, who want to do right by others, and who assume that if someone is unhappy, it must be something they can fix. This pattern has a name. It's called triangulation, and it works exactly like it sounds. Instead of a direct two-person dynamic, a third person or group is introduced into the relationship to shift the power. Here's how it shows up in real life. The most common form is comparison. My ex used to do this without complaining. My last partner was so much more easygoing. The message is clear even when it's never said directly. You're not measuring up to someone else. And your job, whether you realize it or not, becomes closing that gap. The second form is the invisible audience. Everyone thinks you're overreacting. My friends all agree with me. Everyone I've talked to says the same thing. Notice that you never get to speak to these people. You never get to hear their actual opinions. They exist as a vague, unanimous crowd that always happens to support whatever the person is saying. It's not a real conversation, it's a verdict. The third form is jealousy as a tool. This one is more deliberate, mentioning how attractive someone finds them, talking about how much attention they get, staying in contact with an ex, and making sure you know about it. Not because it's innocent, but because your reaction tells them how much power they have over you. All three of these forms do the same thing. They take what should be a direct conversation between two people and introduce a third element, real or imagined, that puts you on the defensive, that makes you compete, that makes you feel like you're always one step behind in a race you didn't know you were running. And here's the most important thing to understand. A person who genuinely cares about you does not need to make you compete for them. So what do you actually do when you recognize this happening to you? The first thing, and this is the most counterintuitive, is to stop competing. I know that sounds simple, but the pull to compete is strong because it feels like the right thing to do. It feels like caring. It feels like trying. But every time you try to prove you're better than the ex, more reasonable than everyone else, more deserving than whoever they're dangling in front of you, you're confirming that their strategy works. You're teaching them that this is a lever they can pull whenever they want to get a reaction from you. So instead of competing, you name what's happening, calmly and directly. I notice you bring up other people a lot when we disagree. I'm not interested in competing with anyone. If there's something specific you need from me, I'd rather talk about that directly. That's it. No anger, no defensiveness. Just a clear statement that you see what's happening and you're not playing. The second thing is to pay attention to consistency. Because here's what genuine people do when they're unhappy in a relationship. They tell you. They say, I need more of this, or this bothers me, Or can we talk about something? They don't summon a ghost army of exes and friends to make their point for them. Consistency of behavior over time. Not declarations, not intensity, not grand gestures, is the only real indicator of someone's character. And someone who consistently uses other people to make you feel insecure is telling you everything you need to know about how they see you. Here are 3 things you can use starting today. Step 1. Notice the pattern, not just the moment. One comparison might be innocent. A consistent pattern of using other people to make you feel inadequate is not. Start paying attention to frequency. Does this happen when you disagree? When you set a boundary? When you ask for something? If the third party always shows up in specific moments where they want you to back down or feel insecure, that's not a coincidence. Step 2. Redirect every comparison back to the actual issue. When someone says, "My ex never had a problem with this," the correct response is not to defend yourself against the ex. It's to redirect, "I'm not your ex. What specifically is the problem you want to talk about?" This removes the third party from the equation entirely and forces the conversation back to where it belongs, between the two of you. Step 3. Measure your own worth independently. The single most effective protection against triangulation is a stable, grounded sense of your own value that doesn't depend on any one person's approval. When you know who you are and what you bring, not arrogantly, but clearly, you cannot be made to compete. Because competition only works when you're not sure you're enough. And you are. The right person for you will never make you feel like you're competing for their attention. They will never use other people as leverage. They will never leave you wondering where you stand. That kind of security, that feeling of being chosen clearly and consistently, is not too much to ask for. It's the baseline. And the moment you stop accepting anything less than that as normal, everything changes. If this hit home, subscribe. There's a lot more coming, and based on what we cover here, you're going to want to see it.